You're tuned in to the English Up Podcast.
Brought to you by the Speak English with Us.
Imagine this. It's Monday morning and you join a virtual team meeting. Everyone's there but totally disconnected, some staring blankly at their screens, others clearly distracted.
Yeah, and the conversation just drags on. Long discussions that don't lead anywhere. Deadlines are closing in, but nothing gets decided because the team feels overwhelmed and keeps postponing key moves.
That feeling when time just slips away and the energy in the room, or should I say on the call, is dropping fast. You keep looking at the clock, and it's like sinking in slow motion.
Exactly. We've all been there, scrolling through endless email threads afterwards, trying to catch up, but feeling stuck the whole day.
This episode is a B1 level, perfect for intermediate English learners. Beginners, don't worry, you're welcome too.
So, what's really going wrong in those long meetings? Why do teams waste hours without moving forward? And is there a better way to use time that actually helps the whole team feel connected and productive?
Great questions. And there's one powerful idea that came up in our research, something called micro moments. These are short, intentional bursts of focus embedded into your day that prevent burnout and speed up how projects flow.
Micro moments? Sounds simple but kind of intriguing. Can tiny pockets of time really fix that slow, overwhelming feeling?
You're about to find out. And we'll even share 2 zero-pressure steps you can try right after this episode.
Quick question for you. How many things do you usually juggle at once during your workday? Drop a number in your head, or say it out loud in 3 seconds. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Got your number? Hold on to it. Sometimes just knowing that number can help us slow down.
Stay with us till the end for our word tour. We'll break down 5 powerful expressions connected to this topic. No boring lists, just real ways to sound more natural.
Also, I'm guessing you're either multitasking or sipping on something warm while listening right now. Am I close?
Probably both. And later, we're going to give you one tiny trick to lock in your team's progress without spending extra hours. But first, let's dive into why your team might feel so stuck in the first place. So, let me paint a picture from one of my recent projects. We had this massive task lots of moving parts, lots of people involved. It felt like we were constantly stuck in long meetings that lasted hours. By the end, people were sweating, eyes glazed over. The energy just flatlined.
I can imagine that. Those long sessions where you lose track of the main points and the momentum just disappears. It's like the team freezes, nobody knows what's next because nothing's clearly decided. The mental load piles up fast.
Right, and the clock just keeps ticking away while everyone feels overwhelmed. In one meeting, I remember a sudden burst of frustration when no one could lock in the next steps. It's like we were all spinning our wheels, but stuck on pause.
That's where the idea of micro moments comes in. They're short, intense bursts of activity, like a quick sync where the team comes together for a brief check-in. Instead of letting the day get lost in ongoing heavy discussions, you break work into smaller chunks.
Exactly. Think about it as dividing a marathon into sprint bursts. After each sprint, you rest, refocus, and then get your next burst of momentum going.
I love that image. And it's not just about working faster, it's about syncing as a team regularly. Syncing means you coordinate your actions and timing together, so nobody's left guessing what others are doing.
Oh, totally. In fact, syncing well can stop those awkward moments where someone's been working on the wrong task for hours, or worse, waiting for a decision that never comes.
Let me share a specific example. In one company I know, they started doing a 3-minute sync right after finishing a significant part of a project. Everyone shares a quick update, no deep dives, just fast, focused check-ins.
Only 3 minutes, but what a difference! That short burst gave the whole team a chance to catch their breath and clarify the next move. It locked in everyone's understanding before the next work phase started.
And it's amazing how just these tiny bursts can build real momentum. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by huge blocks of work, the team feels steady progress breaking through.
Now, here's a little role play showing what happens when a team member interrupts the sync with a long, unfocused update and how to fix it.
Let's do it.
So, last week I was working on the report, but the data was messy and we had to wait on the client. Then I tried to redo the charts, but the software kept crashing, so I decided to put more hours in, and honestly, I'm not sure if we're even using the right template. Ha-ha's.
Wait, Alex, hold on. That's a classic mistake in these short syncs. That update is too long and drifts away from the point. The point of the sync is to share a quick takeaway, 1 or 2 clear updates that help the team move forward. Long stories create confusion and waste valuable time. Instead, you could say, the data was challenging, but I adjusted the charts and expect to finish by tomorrow. Or, I'm waiting on client feedback, so I'll start on the next section in the meantime.
Data was tricky, but I updated charts, waiting on client feedback to move forward. How's that?
Perfect. That locks in clarity and keeps the momentum going.
I froze up earlier with the long explanation. It's easy to fall into that trap.
And you're not alone. That's why building these micro moments into your workflow is game-changing.
Another tactic is using a shared decision snapshot after meetings. Each team member posts one takeaway or next step within 5 minutes. It locks in decisions firmly before everyone forgets or gets distracted.
That snapshot creates accountability and prevents the dreaded who's doing what confusion.
Exactly. These small but focused actions take just minutes but save hours and wasted time and stress. It's all about reducing mental load and keeping everybody aligned.
And there's science behind it too. The Zeigarnik effect shows our brains remember unfinished tasks more than completed ones. Micro moments use this by breaking big tasks into manageable segments, keeping your brain and team motivated.
That's pretty cool. So, instead of drowning in endless work, you ride waves of focused bursts and syncs that pull the team forward.
And by the way, there is a phrase that sums this up perfectly. It's called momentum. We'll break that down and others in our word tour later. Stay tuned. So how do we actually fix this? How do we stop those endless meetings and start using micro moments effectively?
Here's the thing. Micro moments aren't about adding more tasks. They're about inserting tiny sync points into your existing workflow. Think of them as quick alignment checks that keep everyone on the same page.
Okay, but how does that work in practice? I mean, if we're already overwhelmed, won't adding more check-ins just make things worse?
That's a fair concern. But here's the difference. These aren't full meetings. They're 3-minute bursts. Literally 3 minutes. You gather the team, ask, what's your main takeaway from the last task, and move on.
Wait, hold on. 3 minutes? That sounds too short to actually accomplish anything meaningful. How can you make real decisions in 3 minutes?
You're not making big decisions in those 3 minutes. You're locking in clarity. You're making sure everyone heard the same thing and knows the next step. The big decisions happen elsewhere these moments. Just prevent confusion from building up.
But what if someone needs more time to process? What if 3 minutes isn't enough for them to formulate their thoughts? You're basically rushing people.
I hear you, but think about it this way. When you have an hour-long meeting, how much of that time is actually productive? Maybe 10 minutes? The rest is filler, tangents, and people zoning out. With micro moments, you're compressing that productive 10 minutes into 3 focused minutes.
I'm not convinced. What about complex projects? You can't just compress everything into bite-sized chunks. Some things need deep discussion.
Absolutely. And that's where the second step comes in. After those 3-minute check-ins, you use a shared tool, could be a Slack channel, a shared doc, whatever works for your team. Each person posts one takeaway or next step within 5 minutes.
Okay, so you're saying the micro moment is just the verbal sync, and then the written part locks it in.
Exactly. The verbal part builds momentum. It's quick, it's human, it keeps energy up. The written part creates a record so nothing gets lost. And here's the key. It's not a long report. It's one sentence. One clear takeaway.
But what if people don't follow through? What if they skip posting their takeaway because they're too busy?
Then you've identified a problem. If someone can't take 5 minutes to write one sentence, that's a red flag about workload or priorities. But in my experience, once teams see how much time this saves overall, they stick with it.
I guess that makes sense, but I'm still worried about the pressure. If you're constantly checking in every few hours, doesn't that create a sense of being watched all the time?
That's why the tone matters. These aren't performance reviews, they're collaborative check-ins. You're not asking, why haven't you finished? You're asking, what's your current status? Big difference.
Okay, I can see that. So it's more about transparency than surveillance.
Exactly. And here's something I've tried at the end of each micro moment. I ask, what's blocking you? Not in the judgmental way, just genuinely. If someone says, I'm waiting on feedback from marketing, boom, now we know where the bottleneck is.
That's actually really practical. So you're using these moments to surface problems early before they become disasters.
Yes, and that's where the Zeigarnik effect comes in again. Remember how our brains hold on to unfinished tasks? When you surface a blocker in a micro moment, your brain flags it as urgent. You're more likely to solve it quickly instead of letting it sit for days.
So the micro moment acts like a mental trigger to keep things moving.
Exactly. And here's the beauty. It's not about working harder. It's about working smarter. You're not adding hours to your day. You're just redistributing your energy into more effective bursts.
Okay, you're winning me over. But let's be real, what about teams that are already resistant to change? How do you get them to buy into this?
Start small. Don't announce, we're doing micro moments now. Just try it once. After your next big task, gather the team for 3 minutes and ask for takeaways. See what happens. If it works, do it again. If it doesn't, adjust.
So it's about experimenting, not forcing a new system on everyone.
Exactly. And here's the thing, once people see how much clearer they feel after just one micro moment, they'll want more. It's like that first burst of energy after a good workout. You feel the momentum building.
All right, I'm sold. Let's recap the 2 steps for anyone listening. Step 1. Insert 3-minute sync check-ins after major task chunks. Just quick updates, no deep dives.
Step 2. Use a shared tool where each team member posts one takeaway or next step within 5 minutes after the check-in. That locks in clarity immediately.
And remember, this isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Even if you only try this once this week, you'll notice a difference.
And if you found this helpful, hit that like button and subscribe. We've got more practical tips coming your way every week.
So now we've got the idea, tiny sync points, clear takeaways, and enough momentum to keep a project moving.
Right. And the next step is simple. We'll break down the exact words we kept using so you can sound more natural too.
No big theory dump here, just 5 useful expressions from the episode.
Let's jump into our word tour and make them stick.
I keep thinking about that Monday meeting from our story. The one where everybody was tired, distracted, and somehow still talking for 40 minutes.
Right. And the funny part is, the team didn't need a giant overhaul. They needed a few sharper moments. A little burst of focus, then back to real work.
That word we used, burst, feels small, but it's powerful. A burst is a short, intense period of activity, like a burst of work after lunch, or a burst of energy when the deadline suddenly feels real.
Exactly. It's not long, it's not casual, it's concentrated. You don't say, I had a burst of work, when you were slowly answering emails for 2 hours. You use it when the pace spikes and everything gets intense for a moment.
So if I say, I had a burst of work before the call, that sounds natural?
Totally. And you can also say, we finished in a burst. That's short, clear, and very real. It gives the feeling of speed without sounding dramatic in a weird way.
I like that. It matches the whole idea of micro moments. Brief energy, brief clarity, then movement.
And that leads straight into sync. In team life, to sync means to coordinate actions or timing together. It comes from synchronize, but in everyday speech, people just say, let's sync.
That one's everywhere. Can we sync later? Or we need to sync before the client call. It's not about a huge meeting. It's just about lining things up.
Right. And in our episode, those 3-minute check-ins were really sync points. The team wasn't trying to solve the entire project. They were just making sure their timing and direction matched.
So if 2 designers, a writer, and a manager are all moving in different directions, a sync brings them back together.
Exactly. And because it's short, it doesn't feel heavy. That's the beauty of it.
Then there's momentum, which I loved in the story because it sounded almost physical.
It is physical in the original sense. Momentum is the force or speed something gains as it keeps moving. In work, it's that feeling when progress starts to snowball, when one small win makes the next step easier.
So after a sync, a team can actually feel momentum building.
Yes, you answer one blocker, someone posts one update, the mood shifts, and suddenly people aren't dragging their feet anymore. They're moving.
That's why long, messy meetings are so draining. They don't just waste time, they break momentum.
Exactly. And once momentum breaks, it can take forever to get it back. That's why micro moments matter so much.
Okay, now I want the word takeaway, because people use it all the time and still mean slightly different things.
True. In our episode, a takeaway is the main point or conclusion from a meeting or discussion. It's the one thing you want to remember when everything else gets fuzzy.
So not the whole conversation, just the core message.
Right. If someone says, "What's the takeaway?" they're asking, "What should we keep?" or "What matters most?" It's super useful after a meeting, especially when everyone's brain is overloaded.
I'd use it like this. My takeaway is we need clearer roles. That sounds natural.
Nice, short, useful, and very workplace friendly.
And finally, lock in. This one feels a bit firmer.
It is. To lock in means to secure or finalize something firmly. You lock in a time, a decision, a plan, or even a next step. It gives the feeling that something is settled and won't float away.
So after the sync, the team can lock in the takeaway before everyone forgets it.
Exactly. You might say, "Let's lock in Tuesday at 2," or "We need to lock in the final version today." It's practical, direct, and very common in work settings.
And that's why these 5 words work so well together. Burst, sync, momentum, takeaway, lock in. They all feel like movement.
Nice catch. They really do. It's like the language itself is helping the team move faster.
So, next time you hear a meeting that's starting to drag, listen for these words. Or try using them yourself. They make your English sound more natural and your thinking more organized.
And if one of them still feels new, that's fine. Repetition is what locks it in.
So, to wrap this up, the big idea is simple. Teams don't always need bigger meetings. They need sharper micro moments that help them sync, protect momentum, and lock in the real takeaway before everything gets blurry.
Right. And the point isn't to rush people, it's to stop the slow drain that happens when a team keeps talking without deciding. A short burst of clarity can save an hour of confusion later.
If you want to try this, start small. After your next meeting, ask each person for one takeaway in one sentence. Then post it somewhere everyone can see. That's your first tiny win.
And if your team keeps losing energy, add a 3-minute sync after the biggest task chunk of the day. No long debate, no deep dive. Just one quick check on what's done and what's next.
My own favorite trick is to say the decision out loud before I move on. When I've got a clear sentence in my head, I'm less likely to second-guess myself later.
Same here. I've watched a messy discussion turn into a useful plan just because someone finally said, let's lock in the next step. It sounds small, but it changes the whole mood.
And that's the real lesson. Micro moments don't need to be dramatic. They just need to happen often enough to keep people connected and moving.
Before you go, we want to hear from you. Tell us in the comments, what's one meeting habit that drains your team the most?
Try one micro moment this week, even if it feels tiny. One burst of focus can lead to real momentum.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time with more practical English and more real-life ideas.